Hello and welcome. I am Thomas Porteus and you're watching The World Report. Let's take a look at some of the headlines this hour. 4 different wildfires continue to ravage Los Angeles as the death toll reaches 16. Senior officials, including the LA mayor and fire chief, have defended their positions. South Korea confirms that Ukraine captured 2 injured North Korean troops. Ukraine claims to have struck one of Russia's largest oil refineries in drone attack. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sends Mossad director to Qatar for ceasefire negotiations. Meanwhile, Israel continues to pound Gaza, killing 8 people in a school-turned-shelter. 4 IDF soldiers were also killed in the region. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol will not attend first impeachment hearing. The president skips court amid protests for and against him. These come after he imposed martial law on the 3rd of December last year. Russia claims to have gained control of the town of Shevchenko in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk region, a strategic location near Pokrovsk. Ukraine has not yet confirmed the loss. Meanwhile, Ukraine successfully repelled 46 of 56 Russian attacks in the Pokrovsk sector, with several clashes still taking place. Ukrainian forces also hit a Russian oil refinery in Tatarstan. The US has imposed new sanctions on Russia's energy sector, sparking outrage in Moscow. In Germany, an oil tanker belonging to Russia's shadow fleet has been struck in Baltic waters after losing power and steering. Authorities are working to secure the vessel and prevent environmental damage. For more on this discussion, we are joined by Dr. Sergei Dvornyov, Director of Communications of Brick Culture Media Forum in Moscow, and retired Major General A.K. Sawatch. Thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Dvornyov, I wanted to come to you first, and I was wondering what makes the area of Shevchenko such an important location in the Donetsk region?
Good evening, Namaste, Namaskar. Thank you for your question. Of course, right now we can see that the movement of Russian army in the eastern part of Ukraine is very fast because of some not logic policy of Mr. Zelensky. And we can see that during this time before inauguration of Donald Trump, Mr. Zelensky, he wants to achieve some publicity that he is doing well during the war. But Ukraine army lost the spirit of win, and war is always strategy. The biggest price which we should pay in our life is a price for the win in the war, in the battlefield. That's why if we are coming to the good example of Vedas and Mahabharata, we can see even Pandavas, they was win in the battlefield Kurukshetra. But for example, famous Saint Draupadi, she lost all her children, and her favorite son from Arjuna, Abhimanyu, was killed very badly and aggressively. That's why war is always tragedy and disaster. And I'm searching your news, I can see that a lot of report about Kumbh Mela in India. We should collect all scientist people, we should collect all spiritual leaders, we should collect all decision makers in Kumbh Mela and pray for peace. That is only one decision. And regarding your question of that strategic point, of course, is an achievement, but it's we can predict that our movement in that part of Ukraine will be faster and faster.
General A.K. Sawatch, I wanted to ask you, Ukrainian forces are reportedly repelling, well, they said they repelled 46 out of 56 of the attacks in the region of the Pokrovsk sector. What challenges do you think the Russian military are encountering on the ground there?
See, the point is, as far as Russia is concerned, It is advancing in eastern Ukraine slowly but surely. There is no doubt they have already captured almost 20% of Ukraine area, especially of Donbas, which include Donetsk and Luhansk, Zaporizhia and Kherson. And Crimea they have taken in 2014 only. But the only success which Ukraine has got it is in Kursk region. No doubt that in Kursk, Ukraine managed to take by surprise 1200 square kilometer, and they are still holding on a majority of it. At least about 60% of that area is still with the Ukraine. So the Ukraine aim is twofold. One is that they do not want to further lose the area in Ukraine, in East Ukraine, and they don't want the Russian to keep on progressing more than what position today it is. And the second thing is that they don't want to lose the area which they have already taken in Kursk, because the area which they have taken in Kursk of the Russia, they think this will be a bargaining chip once we sit down on a negotiating table. Now, this war is basically escalated before de-escalation. What does it mean? It means what is happening is both the sides are trying to escalate it and trying to improve their position as far as possible before Donald Trump takes over on 20th January. The expectations are very high. After Donald Trump takes over, the chances of some sort of a negotiation and ceasefire are very high. May not be immediately, may take some time, may take a month or two, but the chances are very high. So, keeping that in mind, both Russia as well as Ukraine is trying to escalate with the aim to improve their position on ground. As far as Russia is concerned, they are thinking that they should able to take back the area which they have lost in Kursk, and also try to gain more area in eastern Ukraine, and they are trying to advance accordingly. But at the same time, the Ukraine has been given now a permission to use the NATO weapons deep inside the Russian territory. Their aim is not to lose much ground in East Ukraine, hold on to their position, trying to hit the Russia
I'm
in the mainland, and also at the same time hold on whatever they have achieved in Kursk. And that is what it is happening as on today. Both are trying to improve their position. It is escalation before de-escalation, especially before Donald Trump takes over on 20th January this
Doc-
year.
Dr. Sergey, I wanted to move to the other development today, which is the Shadow Fleet tanker that's stuck in the Baltic Sea. Does this indicate broader issues in Russia's maritime operations? And what should Russia do to address the environmental risks of this?
You see, you cannot win in the war without lost. And of course, Ukraine try the level best to find any tricky way to make some lost to Russian army. But basically, everybody understand in Europe, in America, in Ukraine itself, everybody understands that no way to stop our military, our army, because our mission is a spiritual mission. We want just only to support population of eastern part Ukraine, which already joined to Russia. It was choice of the nation, and it was already written in our constitution of Russian Federation. And of course, sometimes we have some disaster, some loss, but it will not transform our spirit of win. And right now, all Russian nation sacrifice ourselves. We want this win very much because we are, during all history, we're a nation of winners. Second war, you can see that Russia give support to all Europe to defeat Nazism. Right now, this Nazism, unfortunately, was reborn again in Ukraine. That is a big paradox, historical paradox. And right now, Mr. Zelensky will be in future in history like a disaster maker, the most shameless personality during the history of Ukraine. And of course, we are feeling pain right now. But it's a basic we're burning in the material existence. That is a basic and tell conditions. And but I'm completely optimistic, and I can see that future because of the peacemaking role of current President Donald Trump, President of America, will definitely solve all this problem. And I believe this year will be year of peace.
Thank you very much. General AK Sawatch, I wanted to ask you about the drone strike on the oil refinery in Tatarstan. Does it indicate vulnerabilities in Russia's infrastructure that are difficult to defend?
Yeah, no doubt. I just want to talk initially about the shadow fleet, which you were talking about it. And now the point which is coming is, of course, our guest was trying to convey as that Russia is doing well in the war, no doubt. You see, what has happened is that everyone thought when Russia-Ukraine war took place that the Russia will not able to sustain its economy. And that is the biggest thing, because their economy dependent on two things. One is that they export gas, oil and energy, and also as far as the defense equipment is concerned. Now, since last 3 years, everyone thought that they will become more dependent on China, but it has not happened. Their industry is doing well, their domestic industry is doing well, their industrial military complex is working 24/7, and what has happened is, instead of their economy going down, it is robust and it is holding on. That is to the surprise of the Europe, no doubt about it. And their ruble has also become strong compared to dollar. Now, why it has happened? Why it has happened is basically their export is of gas, oil, energy. Of course, the gas and oil could not be sent to the Europe, which was the one which was the biggest buyer. But then countries like China, India, and Turkey are buying it. They are now basically utilizing this shadow fleet, in the sense, because there is a sanction which have been imposed by G7 countries that the export of oil will not be there from Russia. So they are following a shadow fleet, a fleet which is aging, which do not require insurance, which they do not get insurance done, and they trying to take out the oil from the Russian cities and then exporting to all other countries. Now, this is slightly dangerous in the sense whether it is Baltic Sea or in the Black Sea. The reason is, since these are aging fleet and also they are not basically done as far as their insurance is concerned, so it is dangerous. But then there is no other alternative for Russia, because Russia has to ensure that its economy remains relevant. No country can alone fight a war for 3 years, but Russia has fought, no doubt about it. It has surprised the whole world that their economy is still robust and still holding on. So therefore, this is the allegation which is put by the European countries and Ukraine, that the Russia is following a shadow fleet. It is utilizing those oil tankers and all which are aging and which are not covered, and they are utilized for exporting the oil from Russian cities to this. At the same time, the Russians are denying that. They are not doing anything of that. What was your next question?
I'm very, very sorry, General Sawatch. We've run out of time. Thank you very much to Sergei Dvoryanov and AK Sawatch for joining us on that topic. We will now move on to some news stories from across the world. Lebanon and Syria are moving towards closer cooperation, with Prime Minister Najib Mikati announcing joint efforts to secure their land borders. In a historic visit to Damascus, Mikati and Syrian leader Ahmed al-Shara discussed key issues, including smuggling, border challenges and economic ties. This marks the first by a Lebanese Prime Minister to Syria in 15 years, as both nations seek to resolve long-standing matters amid regional shifts. Let's take a look at this report.
Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati has said Beirut and Damascus will work together to secure their land borders. In the first trip by a Lebanese prime minister to neighboring Syria in 15 years, Mikati addressed a joint news conference with Syria-Delaware factor leader Ahmed al-Sharaa. Al-Sharaa said they had discussed issues including smuggling between two countries, border challenges and Syrian foreign direct investment in Lebanese banks.
أعتقد أن سيكون هناك علاقات استراتيجية طويلة الأمد وبينه وبين لبنان مصالح مشتركة كبيرة جدا ووجود حالة مستقرة في لبنان بوجود فخامة الرئيس جوزيف عون أو دولة الرئيس لعل من كان سيعاد انتخابه في الأيام القادمة أم لا، نأمل ذلك إن شاء الله. فسيكون هناك علاقات استراتيجية طويلة الأمد بيننا وبين لبنان تبنى على قواعد.
Syria was the dominant power in Lebanon for 3 decades under the Assad family. Taking office on Thursday, Lebanese President Joseph Aoun swore that he would seize the historic opportunity to start serious dialogue with the Syrian state. Amidst a situation where Hezbollah got weakened after 2 months of full-scale war with Israel late last year, both Syrian and Lebanese leaders seem eager to solve long-pending issues. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We will now take a look at some news updates from North America. US President Joe Biden renewed deportation relief for 900,000 immigrants from Venezuela, El Salvador, Ukraine and Sudan. This move is seen as a delay to any efforts by President-elect Donald Trump to end these protections. The US Department of Homeland Security is granting an 18-month reprieve and access to work permits. Mexico has sent a team of firefighters to California to assist with the wildfires in Los Angeles. President Claudia Sheinbaum shared photos on X of firefighters holding the flags of Mexico and California while standing in front of 2 planes on a runway. Special Counsel Jack Smith resigned from the US Department of Justice. His resignation comes ahead of Trump's inauguration for a second term on January the 20th. He was appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland in November 2022 to take over 2 investigations into President-elect Donald Trump. A Tennessee man, Benjamin Cook, is facing 6 counts of aggravated assault after allegedly opening fire on a family sledging in the snow. Additional charges could be filed depending on the investigation's outcome. President-elect Donald Trump announced incoming duties for several key cabinet positions in a series of social media posts. Trump, who takes office in less than 10 days, made the announcement on Truth Social on Sunday afternoon. He began by naming Catherine McGregor as the next Deputy Secretary of the Interior, a position she held in Trump's first administration. She also named David Fatoussi to serve as the next Deputy Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol has made a drastic decision to skip the critical trial hearing that could determine his fate. Citing safety concerns, Yoon's move adds fuel to the country's escalating political crisis. Here is the full report.
South Korea's impeached president, Yoon Suk-yeol, has decided not to attend the first hearing of the trial that will determine whether he will be removed from office or reinstated. Yoon's lawyer, Yoon Kab-kyun, has stated that officials from the Corruption Investigation Office and the police have attempted to execute illegal arrest warrants through unlawful methods, raising fears of personal safety. He added that the issue of security must be resolved before the president can appear in court. The Constitutional Court hearing is scheduled for Tuesday. Meanwhile, the anti-graft office plans a second attempt to arrest Yoon in connection with a criminal probe over his failed attempt to impose martial law in December. An initial arrest attempt earlier this month failed after a 6-hour standoff at Yoon's fortified compound in central Seoul. The CIO confirmed that Yoon's attorney submitted a notice of appointment of lawyers this afternoon, though no further details were provided. Yoon's move to impose martial law has triggered South Korea's most significant political crisis in decades and has impacted growth expectations for the country's economy. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We will now take a look at some news updates from the Indo-Pacific region. Malaysia Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has clarified that the government has not hidden any documents. These documents are related to jailed former Premier Najib Razak's home detention. Najib has pursued a legal bid to compel the government and to confirm the executive order. He claims the former king issued this order alongside a pardon granted last year. However, the order allegedly allows him to serve the rest of his sentence at home. The Premier of Australia's New South Wales state, Chris Minns, has stated that an attack on a Sydney synagogue marks an escalation of anti-Semitic crime. Police reported attempted arson at the synagogue on Saturday. Australia has experienced a series of anti-Semitic incidents over the past year. These include graffiti on buildings and cars in Sydney. The Taliban in Afghanistan has declined to attend a global summit on Muslim girls' education. The summit is being hosted by Pakistan. Pakistan's Education Minister Khalid Maqbool Siddiqui has stated that an invitation was sent to the Taliban government in Afghanistan. However, no one from the Taliban showed up. US President Joe Biden will have a trilateral call with Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba and Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos. This call is scheduled for early Monday. The call was initially scheduled for Sunday, but it has been postponed due to the Los Angeles wildfires. Japanese Foreign Minister Takeshi Iwaya has announced plans to attend Donald Trump's inauguration as US President on January the 20th. This comes as Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's government aims to maintain close ties with its security ally. He also stated that Japan aims to build a relationship of trust with the Trump administration. Bangladesh's interim government has once again described violence against minority groups as politically motivated. They also stated that a majority of incidents against the minority communities since August last year were political in nature and not communal. And that is all we have time for. We'll be back with more international news updates. Thank you.